Welcome everybody to our Citrus Today show. Susan Straley is our guest today, and Susan has written a very interesting book we're going to talk about, ALZHEIMER'S TRIPPIN with George.
Yes.
And she's local, and the story, I'm not going to try and relate the story, I'm going to let you do that, but tell us how you got started on this journey with George.
Okay. George and I had been married for 39 years. He was diagnosed with dementia. I was in a panic. And my modus operandi is to run when I'm scared. So we went on this long journey. We went on this trip, a road trip. I wanted to make it kind of a last hurrah because he was losing capacity quickly. Mm-hmm. So we took a journey around the United States. We went to see friends and family. We went to a trike rally in Idaho. We ride recumbent trikes. And so this was something that we did. We went and visited different trails, different people. We actually did a house sit in Colorado and watched a cat for a while. And it was a great journey. And during the journey, I kept a blog. And a blog is kind of like letters online. I was letting people know where we were, what we were going through, and it kind of developed into talking more and more about what we were going through with his symptoms.
Right.
And so that was mixed in with it. And so that was our, when we got done with the trip, I turned it into a book. It's our book.
A good sized book, I've got to say. ALZHEIMER'S TRIPPIN with George. Mm-hmm. And you're coming out with another book that is kind of a follow-up to this one, which is also pretty interesting. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, with this particular book, you have a lot of photos of your journey as well as a narrative that follows through the entire journey, which I found pretty unique. What were some of the more outstanding things that happened to you as you were going across the United States?
You know, George and I had always been active. We've always hiked and biked. And so I was just trying to do things like we normally did. So we'd go for a long hike, 3-4 miles, and towards the end of the hike, George would have a harder and harder time moving. And I kept on repeating the same mistake over and over in the book. I would go on this long hike, and then towards the end, he's having either incontinence issues or balance issues or mobility issues. And it took a long time for it to get through my head
to sink in,
that I can't take him on such long walks again. But so that was one of the things. Was we went on a mountain hike, and coming back, he just I could barely move him. I kept on having to stop. It took us maybe 20 minutes to get out, and then coming back, it maybe took us 2 hours because it was just very, very slow. Yeah.
Now, is that as a result of what's going on with, in this case, George, mentally, that he's getting tired faster? Yeah. Or is his body actually getting tired?
No, it's his brain. It's his brain and the mind-body connection. He had neutral-pressure hydrocephalus, which was his diagnosis, but the doctor said that leads to Alzheimer's. You know, the dying of the brain back causes other cells to die. And so what we were experiencing was his brain, when it got tired, his symptoms would increase. They call this, what do they call this?
There's a name for it, but
there's a name for it. Later in the day, the symptoms increase for your loved one that has dementia. Yeah. Sundowners.
When you think back on this journey, what is the biggest takeaway for you from this journey that you took with George?
Oh, well, I didn't even know in the beginning of the trip whether I was going to stick around. We were going on this last hurrah for the 40th wedding anniversary, and I didn't know if I could be a caregiver. I didn't want to be. I loved my freedom. I loved our life. I didn't know if I could do it. And besides that, you know, before we got the diagnosis, you know, he'd have all these symptoms, and I just thought he was being
Being
that.
George,
Yeah, being a different person than the one I married.
Uh-huh.
But it turned out that was why he was acting differently. Well, anyway, so this trip was an adjustment. And I went from, I don't know if I can do this, to, oh, this is the way it is. And this is what it is. And we'll just get through this together. And so that was part of the journey.
Coming into a bigger understanding of what's going on with the other
George,
person.
yeah, and just gradually taking on more of our joint tasks, gradually taking care of him, and that all happened over the journey of the trip. Yeah.
Now, before you went on this long trip, had you gone on some other shorter trips exploring different parts of the country?
Oh yeah, we. In 2008, we rode our tricycles around Wisconsin, and I wrote about that in a blog. And then in 2014, we rode from Northern Illinois down to Florida on our tricycles. So yeah.
So it was exploring some of that territory again.
ALZHEIMER'S Family, I think it's called. And they reimburse caregivers for a portion of what they spend to get respite care. And so that was very helpful.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, they're teaching businesses in this area how to be dementia friendly. Debbie Savage's group is doing it, Ed Young's Bloods. So that helps. We went to the hen house all the time, and they were very friendly there. I'm trying to think. And then there was a social worker that met with us and worked with me to get a in-home help.
Very
Twice
good.
a week.
Well, again, it's two books. The second one's coming out soon. The first one's Alzheimer's Tripping with George, and the second one is The Journey Continues. And they'll be available through Amazon. You can also join the website, the blog, by going to susanstraley.com for more information. I encourage you to get the book, especially if you know someone who has Alzheimer's, you're a caregiver, or I don't even think you have to be related with anybody with Alzheimer's to enjoy the journey that you took. Susan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was great fun.
And thanks to you folks for sharing the time with us too, right here on Citrus Today.